good morning to you. Welcome back to the Higher Grounds podcast. Again, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday morning. I'm sure others of you will be watching later on in the week, whatever time God allows you to have the time to view the podcast. We certainly are appreciative hearing from many of you and many new folks every single day, and we're very, very thankful that God has used this medium to reach you in some way. A lot of young people watch and listen in, and we're very, very thankful that you do. We hear from Bible college students around the country who are watching and then discussing our materials once they get back in the dormitory areas, and we're thankful for that as well.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to be spotlighting a few of the Bible colleges that some of you are a part of, and interviewing some folks there in days to come. Looking forward to that. It's good to have my partners in crime back around the table, Brother Stephen Aldridge and Dr. The Dex, as he has been affectionately referred to by us and then made fun of by others by that same title. And how are you, Dr. Dex?
Doing good.
Good.
Doing great. Yep. Wonderful.
Sounds like it.
Yep.
So,
doing good.
well, everything's good at your place. And
Steve's here. It's all good. Everything's good. Jesus is good.
right.
Andy ain't good. But
Andy
hey,
ain't good.
it is what it is. you know.
Yeah, I've admitted it. See?
That's right.
I've owned
That's
it. I'm
right.
owning that.
That's right.
The Bible said there's none good, no, not one. You know that. But then the Bible also said Barnabas was a good man. And so I fit into the first verse,
Right.
and not the Barnabas verse.
That's right.
I'm not the son of consolation.
No, sir.
I'm the son of controversy.
And contention.
Son of God.
No, not really. Not really. Only by pride cometh contention, and I'm not full of pride, and I'm proud of it. And I want you to know that.
I was getting ready to say, anything getting ready to come out of your mouth next is going to crash and burn. So go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Okay,
I'm just
pass it to Steve then, in humility.
You do it. You pass it to him.
Brother Steve, how you doing?
Terrible.
Terrible.
It's pitiful. Everything's terrible, horrible.
Yeah.
I walked in the door this morning and said, "Good morning, brother." And he said, stop it." He said, "Your positivity is already killing me."
Brother Steve, if it wasn't for you, this thing would be a train wreck.
I'm telling you.
You know it's right. It would be a train wreck.
You're talking about guys mentioned the podcast. I was in a meeting just 2 weeks ago. Our choir was singing out. And in a little fellowship time, a guy walked by. He said, "Man," he came by and he said, "Brother, I just want to appreciate the podcast." And it's great. And he introduced himself to us. He listens to it, and he's a missionary heading out west.
Amen.
And told him where he went to church at and all those things. And so again,
Yeah.
it's just good to meet people here and there that
That's
have
right.
gotten tuned in to the podcast and listening. And matter of fact, I had a meeting. I had a guy that listened to one of our podcasts and just kind of wanted to pick my brain a little bit more. About one of our subjects, and we sat down and had a good time of fellowship there, and so
Amen.
I'm grateful for that. We don't know what this. Brother Michael's kind of like me. We don't really know what to expect when Brother Andy calls and says, "I got an idea, I want to do something," because again, several years ago he called and was like, "We're going to have a rally." I was like, "What's a rally?" And so then we crisscrossed the state for a while together.
Yeah.
And
but we had 12,000 people show up.
I'm telling you, we have those people show up. So anyway, I
If
always make a
call
joke.
you an idea, I got an idea. It's probably
you
going to
might
fly.
as well just jump
It's
on
gonna
board
fly.
and grab an adventurous spirit and go
for it.
But I am doing great, doing really good. Lord,
Amen. Hallelujah. Crystal and the young guns good.
they're doing very well, and just growing up a little bit too fast. Seth now is one that has joined the driving scene as well. So,
Has he now?
yeah, they are. He's driving, and
He's always driven me out of my mind.
driving you out of your mind. He's always just been that thorn in your flesh.
He has. Oh, that's right.
It's just because he's part of the human,
Redneck
species,
wannabe
yeah.
is what he is.
Everybody drives you crazy.
They're-
You can't be a redneck living in the hood where he lives.
Yeah, we're down in the hood in Grand Granville, down in Conisty, down in Conisty.
Conisty.
We say, we say the Conisty. That's the proper side of Conisty. Where we're
Oh, y'all live in Conisty.
Yeah, we're in Conisty.
Yeah, and then the son live in Conisty.
Yes, and Conisty.
Conisty. Hey, so we got a lot of feedback on the episode that we did regarding our wives.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah.
And we were hearing from people saying, "Hey, y'all talked about them fine ladies. Can they come on
Yes.
board and can they do a podcast?" So I'm still trying to
Hey, I got to tell you
lasso
this.
Miss Beverly into
Oh,
that.
yeah?
Hey, This is funny you said that because I mentioned that to Crystal. But when I told her to Crystal, I remember I messaged you back and I said, now, she might tell me no, but she ain't going to tell Brother Andy no. So when I went and told her, I said, honey, Brother Andy wants you to be on the podcast.
What did she say?
She'll come on. She's in.
What about R&B?
I'm sure she would probably. I was sitting in a restaurant the other day eating lunch with a church member of mine, and a lady stopped by. I've known her for years. She knows my wife real well, and she said, I want you to know I watched that little round table thing you done about, and she said that was spot on. Yeah, and so I thought, I figured
she would listen.
Oh yeah.
So then if I've got to talk to Miss Crystal, because she's going to tell you, it's the same with Aunt B.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to
I'll
talk to Aunt
try.
B.
I will. We'll maybe need to get one of the grandkids, get one of them recruited in to go out.
Joseph, he comes in the podcast room in the studio all the time. He'll say, I want to do a podcast today. I said, okay. So we'll set the camera up and he'll do, some kind of podcast, and he likes doing it.
Yeah.
He likes doing it.
I love it.
That's awesome.
We enjoy the family, that's for sure.
Sir. Yes.
All right. So today we want to, we're drinking coffee again, right?
That's good coffee.
And we're drinking some more of the old dreaded bean, are we not?
It's really good. Got her good and stout. Made her right. And the first pot Brother Michael made was a little bit weaker, and so we just kind of added a little bit.
We stouted it up a little bit.
We stouted it up a little bit.
We went back in, and Brother Steve said, Mike, did you make this coffee? I said, yeah, I did. I said, but come to think of it, I don't think I changed the grounds from the first pot. And I said, pour it and see what you think. And then he poured it, and he sticks it up there and gets him a little sip, and he kind of shakes his head a little bit.
How
and
do
I poured
you
the
make
pot out and look it up like that.
And not
you can
change
see through
grounds.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
You just pour water back in the top and it starts making another pot. I mean, that's how you do it. It's not the best decision to make, but it's how you do it.
Do y'all do that at your house? I'm serious.
we
Do you
don't.
use the grounds twice?
I just didn't, I didn't think. I
Wasn't thinking.
wasn't thinking, yeah.
Now, some people will actually...
A head like that, and he wasn't thinking.
In his behalf, some of my useless knowledge is that people will actually, in coffee shops, they'll take used grounds, soak them in water, brew them again, and then they'll let it get cold and make ice cubes out of them to put in iced coffee. So,
that's neat.
Some more of my useless knowledge.
Hey, look here. I got a quote of the day. Ready?
Yes.
Here's the quote of the day. The devil loves to maximize my faults so that he can minimize my future.
What about that?
What about that?
Who said it?
Stephen Aldrich.
Hey.
How about that?
He actually didn't say that.
Yeah.
He said that, but he didn't say it the way I said it. So what I did was I took what he said,
Made it better.
and I Andyized it, and I think it sounds better. But I'm still giving it to him.
Something I thought was actual words.
Yeah.
And he made it like real words. I had made up words, and he used real words.
No, see, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And now I'm still going to give you credit for it.
Oh, thank you.
It's going to go in my catalog of quotes.
Hey, thank you.
And I'm going to post it, and I'm going to put your picture on it. And Stephen Aldrich said this.
Okay, wonderful.
And so it's not like I'm stealing anything off of you. I'm just making you look better.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Oh, mercy.
I can do that.
Yeah.
And well, for some people, I can.
So, doctor it all you want to.
Yeah.
Hey, what are we talking about today? I want to talk about.
Well, I mean, you asked me what we were talking about,
And then
before I ever get a chance to tell you what we're going to talk about,
let me make you think you matter.
Let me tell you.
But you don't.
Hey,
Let me
brother
tell
Mike, what are we
you.
talking about? Well, here's what I want to talk about today, brother Mike. Like, hey, you ain't got a chance at all to contribute to the podcast. Go ahead, brother Andy. What are we talking about?
No, it's yours.
Okay. What you wanted to talk about in this episode was a pastor making some sort of side income.
Side income, not income on siding.
Well, I mean, it could be.
Could be.
Could be.
Could be. There are a lot of men who are in. They're in churches where they're bivocational, and that's quite understandable. Bivocational people are. I was a bivocational pastor when I began. The business that I was in, we had to work a lot, so we were working, a minimum of 60 hours a week, generally speaking. Oftentimes, 6 days a week. And then sometimes I would work 36 hours straight. And so on top of that, you're having to visit, you're having to, to prepare, you go to the hospital, had to get ready to teach, ready to preach, do youth meetings with your young people. And so working that kind of time did not allow you to do your job well, nor to do your to do your
Ministry.
ministry well.
Right.
And so I went full time.
Yeah.
And really, I could afford to go full time because I had no debt and everything was paid for. But I went from making a lot of money, living in a really nice home, to I don't mean this in a disparaging way. It's just truth. I went below the poverty line, living in the church parsonage, which was a very small house, but we loved every minute of it. I mean, we enjoyed it, but we didn't have any extra money to enjoy with our family. And so there's a lot of men who would be considered full-time, but their full-time salaries still keep them with a medium-sized family right at or below the poverty line.
Right.
And we want to give these guys some ideas about making a little side money. And I know all three of us have made side money from time to time in various business ventures and things that we could do while still giving ourselves completely the ministry. Talk about that just a little bit.
Well, first of all, I've been where I'm at 16 years, and I have been bivocational twice during that time. And so I understand what it's like to be bivocational. Right. And you're right; it is a huge challenge. I was lucky to bear that burden in my youth. Right. Hadn't had to be bivocational in quite a while. Before we dive into it, I want to deal with an erroneous teaching about this subject.
Yeah.
In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 14, the Apostle Paul makes this statement. He says, "Even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel."
Right.
I've heard preachers before use that verse to propagate the idea that it's wrong for a pastor to work and do his ministry calling as if he were kind of maybe selling short his true calling in life.
Right.
I want to say this. The whole context of that passage is Paul telling the church at Corinth how that it is their duty to take care of the man financially that does preach the gospel to him. Now, he forfeited that right in the chapter.
That was what I was going to say.
Yeah, he forfeits the right there and says, "I'm not going to because you're so carnal, you can't handle it. I'm setting the next guy up after me.
Right.
Make sure you understand your responsibility." Paul, we know, was a tent maker by trade, and there were times when he had to do that. Now, with that being said, and you're talking about, I'll put it in the context of where I'm at now. Our church is very good to me. They do. I think they do a good job of trying to take care of our family financially, and not only that, but they pay attention to the fact that inflation and every year they try to not every year. Sometimes there's been times they've been so good to me I wouldn't let them meet for a couple of years and consider giving me another raise. I just or whatever the case may be. But I'll say this too. They did not ask me to have 5 children.
Right.
We have 5 children. We love our kids. That was our decision. We wanted a large family. And so here's been my philosophy. Live off of what God's gives you. I've never one time made money an issue, nor will I ever.
Right.
And then if there comes a time in your life where there are needs that need to be met, that's when you need to be in a position as a pastor, not because you're seeking a greedy or filthy lucre, not because you want a lot higher of a lifestyle, but when the need arises, then you need to be willing and ready to go do what you have to do. I'm still a husband and a dad. I have a responsibility biblically to take care of my family. So we're talking about some ideas. I think is one of the things you wanted to bring about. I'll say this to every young man who's not pastoring yet. One of the greatest things you can do, I wish I would have done this. I was working in the heat and air industry whenever God called me to preach.
Right.
If I would have been smart, I already had most of my field hours. If I'd have been smart, here's what I would have done. I would have went ahead and got licensed. And the reason I would have done that's this. If you find yourself needing finances sometime in the ministry, you don't want to have to go work somewhere hourly making a minimum type of wage because you got to dump more time in.
Right.
If I would have been certified in heating and air, I could go out and do a side work for a day, maybe do an occasional install and make a week's salary for some other people.
Yeah.
Right.
It's that, and it don't matter what it is, whether if you know how to lay floor, and whether you know how to paint, you can frame, plumbing, electrical, weld. I mean, it's vast, but learn a skilled trade where you can give minimal hours to it, get maximum return, and still dump the majority of your time into your ministry and family.
Right.
That would be, if I was a young pastor right now, well, if you're in Bible college, everybody's got the dream. You know what I'm saying? You're going to go full-time right out of the gate, and that's all you're ever going to be. That's not the reality of ministry. And here's the thing about it. If you got a church right now running 100 or less, you could be bivocational again like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just a change in the economy.
Yes.
Maybe just a couple families, leave, whatever the case, according to your debt situation at church. I may be bivocational again before this thing's over with. It is what it is. You do what you have to do to make it go. But that would be my advice to a young man in ministry, especially. Man, find something that you can learn, and if you got to make some extra money, you can do it using the minimal amount of time possible so that you can give the majority of yourself still to the Lord's work.
Right. And Steve, when you were pastoring here in our local area, you had a church that supported you full time, but gave you the leeway to say, Pastor, go. If you need to make some extra money for you and your family, go do that. And I think that's a blessing.
It is.
That's really a blessing that a church gives that freedom to their pastor to go do that. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't want to pastor in a place that didn't give me that freedom to do that. For my family.
Because one doesn't have to cost the other.
No, it doesn't.
Right? It doesn't.
It doesn't.
And I was blessed when I never, my dad's painted for 50 plus years, probably 60 years. Grew up in a home of a painter, and of course, painted pastor. I mean, that's what it is, bivocational. If you're a pastor full time. There's no such thing as, you're half part-time pastor.
You're a pastor on vacation. You're a pastor on your birthday. You're a pastor on Christmas. I've got Christmas Day call.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but when I started, it's kind of the same thing. We had, of course, the family growing, those kind of needs. Maybe a man may be in between ministries, and like you just mentioned a while ago, maybe in between and need to for a while be able to compensate some income. Or sometimes, and I've known guys that have took some work on because they had a physical need and they didn't have insurance. And you'll be amazed at the people in full-time ministry that doesn't have any insurance or something to fall back on. And so, but I was always in a great shape. One thing I did is that I did work for Brother Chad Watson, who had a painting business. I worked for him some. And so, of course, he's a pastor. I'm a pastor. Hey, Brother Chad, I can't come in. I got 2 people having surgery, or I'm preaching a meeting.
I understand.
And it's no problem. I get it. Come on, if you're available tomorrow, come in. If you can't,
Right.
And we kind of helped each other out. There were times he couldn't go, and I'd cover for him. And then I was able to kind of do a little painting business on the side. With painting, you either love it or you hate it. I mean, it's just one of those things, and I loved it. And I usually would work for people that I
You ain't no painter.
Hey, let me tell you something.
Ain't no
Brother,
painter.
If me and Brother Chad Watson are around, we're talking about
no
painting.
painter.
Brother Andy's going to come in, and that's what you're going to hear. You ain't no painter. So let me tell you about this. So me and Brother Andy and Brother Chad Watson are having Brother Jamie Weatherford paint his church. They're moving to their new building. And so me and Brother Chad, we paint the sanctuary. We cut in and roll the sanctuary. We get
now
through with
remember, it's a sanctuary. It's just 4 walls. Ain't nothing really to cut in.
Yeah,
you just rolling a bunch of walls. And stuff.
All right, so we paint that whole sanctuary a couple hours, something like that.
Right.
And we get done, and Brother Andy's been fighting this little small bathroom.
With a bunch of cut-ins.
For
a
hours.
lot of angles and stuff. I got to get in.
We come out, and he's got paint on his bald head. He's got paint all over his clothes, paint's everywhere. Me and Brother Chad don't have any paint on us.
Yeah.
And Brother Chad, and then he looks at us and said, and we looked at him, Brother Andy, what happened? He said, I'm a painter. If you ain't got no paint on it, you ain't a painter.
You ain't no painter.
Yeah. And so we just kind of knew how to keep it clean a little
He
bit.
got more paint on his shirt than he got on the wall.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
And so that's why painters wear white clothes. I want you to see the paint on them.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
I want you to see they've been doing something.
Yeah.
And again, just because somebody's doing some side work doesn't mean the ministry has to suffer.
No.
It just means, again, he's taking care of things. That's his heart. But this door has opened for him. And sometimes I've seen this where a pastor who is willing to do something was an example to some other men in the church to put some fire under them to be busier and to work harder.
That's a good
and take
point.
care of their
That's
family.
a really, really good
Man,
point.
God's setting a good example.
Every one of us are going to pastor from time to time just because the nature of religion and the draw to religion or to community in religion by different kinds of people. there is a draw to a church congregation to bring in men and families that are unwilling to work because of, there's a possibility of us getting a handout. They're unwilling to do their due diligence to take care of their children, to take care of their families financially. And the point that you just made, Brother Steve, is an awesome point to that, because I think a lot of people have the idea that preachers really don't work. And I think they have that idea, and that's just the silliest notion I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. I enjoyed it when it comes to in the painting. Of course, I did some construction and frame houses, and then into painting. I really enjoyed that. Now, since we've made this move in ministry here, I haven't done any painting on the side. I hadn't painted a job.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
So there may be a guy out there that said, I enjoy painting. How can he build a business, a side business, for side income painting? How do you do that?
Well, so I'm gonna be in a meeting tonight. I'm gonna be in a meeting somewhere around people. You're probably gonna, if you'll be listening, you're gonna hear somebody say they need some painting done, and you may have to start, or you may need to go to someone who has a set up and established business and ask him, can I help work? I'm not trying to take business from you. I just need to get some more experience. Can you make cards? Yes. Can you? But you're usually going to have to hear somebody, say I need some painting done, and one door lead to another.
Yeah.
I don't remember advertising. I just remember the door opened. Somebody needed some painting done. We painted for them, and then once you do get a job, you do that and say, if you don't mind, if you hear somebody needing some painting, if you will,
and it took off.
That's exactly right.
And you used to turn down stuff because you had too much.
Couldn't do it. Matter of fact, you and I have a mutual friend that once I did some painting for them, years ago, they referred. I mean, I would get calls all the time.
Oh yeah.
About doing that stuff. But of course, I couldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Brother Mike? I know that through the years, you and your wife and family have made side money.
Yeah.
How's that going for you?
Well, for the first, even the years when I wasn't actually truly bivocational, in that I had another full-time job, I would always, I still had connections like in heating and air and different things like that. And so I done side work a lot. And sometimes my side work was to do nothing but pay my missions. I mean, it's those kinds of things.
Right.
About 6 years ago, as a dad, I'm sitting back looking at, and I can see the swell in the water, and I could tell that probably the most expensive part of parenting our children was coming down the pipe. And so we had saved some money, and I knew a little bit about the furniture industry. I'd worked in the manufacturing side. I'd also seen, the retail side to a very minimal degree. And so we talked about it. We had prayed about it, and I said, I think it's a good time for us to make this move to see if we can't get some kind of an established business to help us through that season of expense with our kids through those later teenage years, braces and possible college and everything else. And so we did. We started that, and my goal was, I knew it was going to be really taxing on me for the first couple of years because she didn't know a lot about it. But we started it, and then I just brought her along the way and integrated. It was a business that we knew that we controlled how much time that we would invest in it.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now it's to the place to where it's about 6 years old. It's standing on its own 2 feet, better, of course, and when they tell you most businesses don't survive the first 3 years, man, it was hard. It really was hard.
Yeah.
And but anyway, long story short, now she probably carries 80% of that load now, or she kind of uses It's really, she does about 80% worth. I invest 10, 12 hours a month, not a week, a month. In my role probably, and the Lord's really been faithful, and it's helping us. It's accomplishing exactly what we wanted it to do. Let's just say we got a busy May coming up. We have our own Bible conference, and then there's a couple of different meetings where I'm preaching out. The whole family's going, kind of deal. And we know all we have to do is pull back on the advertising, and it cuts the calls down to about nothing. And it's one of those situations where when we're on the road, even she does it on the road from the phone. Yeah. And so it's the Lord.
So folks are able to come online.
Yeah.
Look at furniture.
We have a website. Yes,
sir. Purchase furniture, and you deliver.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or we ship. We ship nationwide. So sometimes it's not even, we don't even touch it.
Yeah.
We may have it in our warehouse and they make the call, place the order, pay for it. Another company comes and picks it up and they ship it to them. It's an amazing day for starting businesses because of internet presence and social media and so forth and so on.
Another benefit, and I was going to mention this, of doing that side business, and I think this is good for all men. You're busy, you're in the ministry, but when we would take on a side job, that was another opportunity for me to take Seth along,
Right.
and for him
Teach
to
him
work,
how to work.
teach him how, not just how to work, but also teach him about doing that job right, pleasing the customer,
Yes.
Charging, getting paid, that kind, and going through that whole process. It was always good,
And then
Absolutely.
having
Being a
money in
part of
his
that.
pocket to teach him how
That's
to give,
exactly right.
how to save.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do this. Let's give some ideas, and our podcast may run a bit long today. Not long, but so let's give a few ideas. So we've talked about things that you may say, well, I don't have the startup money to do what you're doing, or I don't have the ability or the skill to to read a tape measure and cut boards or paint.
Yeah.
So are there things that you can do? Yes, there are. Got a preacher friend, have had a preacher friend through the years who has just studied about the eBaying business.
Yeah.
And he just takes his day. He would take his day, and then he would go as soon as he got all of his church things done that he had to do, or if he was out visiting, he would go in thrift stores or go to yard sales or whatever the case may be. He knew what he was looking for because he had done his due diligence to research eBay. He would buy this material, come back home, take pictures, and list it. And he and his family were bringing home anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 a year on top of the salary that he was being paid at the church, just by stopping in, while he was doing his church business in a thrift store or whatever, and buying material that he could turn a profit on. All right, so let's say that's not your knack. I'll show you what you can do to make decent money. You can sign up with Grubhub or with Uber Eats, and you can literally, if you're living in an area where there's a congested group of people, such as a metropolitan city or a large urban community, you can sign up with Uber Eats or with Grubhub, and you can deliver food to people's homes. And out of the tips and what you make, I have known of people that made $700 to $1,000 a week, $700 to $1,000 a week, just treating that like a job.
Wow. Yep.
I've known of others who signed up, either with Uber or Lyft, and they were making outstanding money, $20,000 to $40,000 a year plus.
Yep.
I've known of people that made up to $6,000 a month doing these rides. And if you have, I was telling somebody the other day who had bought a new ride, if you had like a Suburban, a real nice Suburban or Yukon or a Cadillac Escalade, you can make huge money in executive transport through Uber or Lyft. And so, there are tons of ways that a person can make money. Research it, Google search, how can I make a little extra money? And you can find ways to do so, and you can ease some of the burden of your family and be a help and a blessing also to your church to be able to give. I think this has been a good episode, and I thank you for tuning in. Maybe we've given you a few ideas and encouraged you along the way. Hey, from the Higher Grounds Podcast, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.